Thank you. It's so lovely to be here. I just love Black Lawrence Press, and I'm so happy to be a part of this family. And this is just lovely. It was so lovely to hear Mary read. I have your book in my house somewhere packed up because I'm moving. Um, and it's just such a mixture of like this little jo- jolts of joy from like the surprise of these lines, right? Plus also like this clear thinking. It's just really lovely. And I've seen it here and also at the bookstore, and it's just fun to see it everywhere. So congratulations, and nice to see a bunch of lovely friends here too. Thank you. So we'll read a few poems from Motherland. This is not my tab copy because I don't know where it is in my house because of my move. Um, and I've done the circles of the poems, so all of them now I think I've read, and it's nice to read it here. So I will start with this poem, Arroyo. And this poem I wrote after a party where we were talking about the letter A, as one does in parties. Uh, and the letter A, how it came from sort of the head of an ox, like that. Um, and we were talking about that. And when I was walking home, I was thinking, my family comes from the northeast of Brazil, where the biggest sort of tragedy is drought. And the picture usually sees like this cracked soil with a skeleton of a cow there ahead. And then I thought of my name with this three A's staring at me. And that's where this poem came from. Arroyo. They say the first letter of my name evolved from a picture of a carcass, a cabeça de vaca sem as suas costelas expostas like claws or jaws, ancient. My neighbor says not to let my son sleep on my bed, but I do. I know the terror. At night, we're haunted by my great grandparents, dried on cracked soil, beating in the cold of my feet, na Bahia in the bones they inhabit on my bed. In America, I learned that arroyos are paths carved by the rain, but I already knew. At night, the cracked soil calls for me. As cabeças de vaca of my greats, calling and calling, I tell them, I don't know you, but I do. The city's spine is a split bifurcation solidified in calcium. In America, they eat the bagasse of oranges and say my name means bliss. I am in love with bone white concrete. The spine of the city sits fleshless and free of scales, flexible bones that can bend and keep bending and keep bending, bending and bending right up until they snap. All right. So this poem, I feel it has a sister poem that I feel like they're the same poem somehow, but they're different. And this other poem, I think, sums up very nicely the themes that in this collection, and it's called Line. I inherited from my mother the knobbly joints and square ends of my fingers. From my father, I got the habit of biting my nails. The shortness, the frayed missing skin had never bothered me. But now I have a son, and he has begun to bite too. In America, I learned that I can snap a rubber band against my wrist each time my hand reaches up towards the mouth. On the back of my hand, the rubber band disappears into the color of my skin, but when I turn and face the inner side, it is a clear division of my body. The first time I saw a cotton tree, I found it beautiful. The cotton so white in its brown cradle, so soft against the square tips of my fingers. I squeezed the dead flower around it and felt joy from hearing it crackle. As children, we had cups full of sugar cane. We chewed on it and spit out the bagasse. Toothless men ran the knobbly stalks through a machine. The juice trickled into our glasses, and the flat piece that came out on the other side was put through it again until everything was gone. The dry split stalk thrown into a pile, limp like blonde hair. When I first arrived in America, I didn't understand what people meant when they said with an American accent that they were Irish or Italian or French. Now that I understand, I asked my mother for a family tree. She said she had never thought of such things, and she wouldn't know much past her grandmother's first name. So what I have is my memory of the faces of my relatives and my own. When I first arrived in America, all I could see was beauty. The snow, fine like sugar, white like cotton. But now the beauty, the land, the tired metaphors just make me sad. Before I left for America, I saw an individual in the mirror. But today I see my father, my mother, my brothers, my son, and a man missing skin from tears on his back, and the man who did it. When I looked this morning, I tugged on my rubber band so hard that it broke. Right. Yeah, so one thing that I forgot to say in the beginning, I just love that I'm uh, reading here this month when there's the call for the immigrant writing series, which is very exciting and lovely. So thank you, Diane, for that. Yeah, so I remember there being meat in in one of Mary's poems, so I'm going to read this this meat poem, which I think is kind of also part of the series with these two poems that I read first, and it's called Meat. Meat. In the red light of late afternoon, I stand clean and naked in the post-shower fog with a bleary reflection of this body of mine, of yours, and I want to call the conference of my face, summon us from this body of mine, of yours, but I don't know how to sift through the indices of pronouns in our languages. I want you to confess twisting the proteins of your mouths, masked in the muscles in my cheeks, as I wipe wet, my hands wrinkled with condensation, and stare at this face of yours, of mine, asking, what have you done to us? What have we done to you? Can I claim you as you did one another? My voice echoes and I get closer to the cleared path, fogging again, cold silver surface still open, my mouth and exhale as we hide in this meat of me, this soft present skin. Good. So let me do Eclipse. Let me see where it is. Yeah, so there's some light and photography here in the book as well. And I'm going to read this eclipse poem. Remember the Great American Eclipse? So I remember at the time I was like, people have too much time. There's so many problems in the world, you know. And I remember bonding with a medical reception over this. People don't have enough work in their hands or whatever. But when it happened, I was like out of my mind. I was so moved. So this poem is about that. Eclipse. Under the arc of celestial bodies in their trivial dance, eyes naked, I yawned and kept moving, unmoved by their movement. Then I looked down at a crack on the sidewalk and saw the sun-dappled light bent into the shape of the moon, by the moon, asserting herself in the sky on the ground. I imagined the moon could see me, imagined I was the moon seeing me, small, looking down at her, trying in vain to eclipse her. I, so small on the sidewalk, surrounded by 1,000 seas. All right. And I think um, maybe because Julie's here, I may do cleaning the colonial. Let me see. Um, yeah, let me see. I think I'll have time for it. I think that'll be great. Okay, so this one is longer. So if you tune out and tune back in, I think you can follow the spirit of it. But it's called, and also I'm moving, so this is appropriate. Cleaning the colonial. You were once so foreign to me, the rattling and whistling of the radiator, the nooks and cracks collecting dust, your wooden body so lacking in concrete, so prone to burning, your exterior covered with scales. Now I kneel and place a damp cloth on your skirting. I push into your grooves with my fingers, following them until the end of the wall, when the cloth is covered with the lines drawn by your moldings. I wonder if you have forgiven me for coming here and ignoring the contrast of your trims, despite the protest of painting professionals and the prescription of more experienced parents. I headed to Home Depot and made all your surfaces apartment white. But I hope you see the beauty of this light you let in through your windows when you amplify its reflection from within. I have also neglected the understanding that you are meant to be filled with figurines and tassel curtains, an inherited empire settee with its claws clinging to hand-woven rugs, that your crooked golden chandelier is supposed to hover above a solid dining table. I have kept you mostly bare. I assure you this sparseness is not for your deprivation or to expose your many imperfections. Part of it is that I find you too beautiful to be hidden. Part of it is an attempt to replicate in you the unadorned spaces from the faraway place that formed me. You see, once I realized some time ago that the crown emphasizing your front door was purely decorative, that in spite of having seen so many facades similar to yours on TV, I didn't know you, and my love for you then became more complicated. Now I complain as I try to grapple with the muck stuck within the grid of the radiator or within the depths of the oven. You note that most of my work is on my own mess and remind me of my progeny's crayon and the scratches caused by my cheap self-assembly furniture. I retort that the damage that predates me is deeper, more disagreeable, more difficult to address, and continue to clean, and you continue to uphold your unmovable frame. But notwithstanding our differences, I lovingly sweep your strange wooden floors in the kitchen. I occupy your hollow rooms and populate them with private song. I realize that now or soon, no one alive would know you better than I do. By now, we understand you don't really belong to me, and I don't really belong. But we have come to accept that our histories have commingled. And as I do my best to scrub your stains, I imagine my son grown, inhabiting another place, feeling cold for your concrete counterparts, always wishing for you. Thank you so much. Thank you.